Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting edition of Project 613's Mensch of the Month. And this month's Mensch of the Month is Eric Gordon. The live studio audience is going crazy. All right, Eric, mazel tov on being Project 613's Mensch of the Month. You know, when Mensch comes to mind, Eric Gordon comes to mind.
I'm honored to be here. I'm really excited about this.
Well earned. You are of our most involved people in Project 613, the Renaissance man, involved pretty much in every possible program, and you're here. You're loyal, you're dedicated, you're a mensch, you come with a positive attitude, and we're excited for the interview.
I'm excited for the interview as well.
Okay, all right, let's start at the beginning. Obviously, a great person comes from great people. Tell us about your parents and your family, your background growing up in Chicago, maybe a little Jewish stuff, where that comes in, and go for it.
Totally, yeah. So was born in Chicago, in the city, and then moved out to the suburbs very early in my life. I've got two younger brothers. The youngest one is in Chicago with me. The middle one moved out to Texas, but both of them have been at Project 613 events at various points. They're fans. I also want to add that my dad is a huge fan of the show. Hi, Dad.
Hey, Jeb.
He's super excited about this. I am too, but so the three of us were raised in a conservative synagogue. We attended Hebrew school there. All of us were bar mitzvahed. And then afterwards, through high school and into college, Jewish community involvement was very important, but less so with the religious focus. It was more about meeting different people who were also interested in, staying engaged in the community and philanthropy. I was very active with the Hillel in college at Syracuse University, where I attended.
Orange men.
Just orange, but yeah.
Orange.
It hasn't been orange since Title IX.
Oh, no, sorry.
So that was a big part of my college experience. I really enjoyed the type of people that were going to the Hillel. I found that sort of similar to what I wanted. They were motivated. They liked to have a good time. They were driven, not just by wanting to enjoy, school spirit in that atmosphere, but wanting to be successful, wanting to set a foundation for their future careers. I still keep in touch with a lot of those people. Unfortunately, not too many in Chicago, but right. We cross paths when we can.
Amazing. So what happened post-college? You're a young professional, and
so post-college, there was a period where I was traveling around the country for work and living in various cities. My first job out of college took me to Dallas, so I was there for a little less than a year. It was a cool city, but I don't think anybody really likes their first job out of college, and I was no exception there. It was tough, but I was young. I was optimistic. I was hopeful. I made the best of it. And then after a short stint in Dallas, I went to Indianapolis for 3 years for the next step in that career path. I wasn't super happy in Indianapolis. It wasn't a great place for me, not because it's a bad place, just because it wasn't what I was looking for. I think that both in Dallas and in Indianapolis, I went there for the job. I didn't know anybody, and I did a decent job of making friends in both of those cities, but what I always wished that I had, and what just wasn't available in any capacity, was Jewish community groups like Project 613, like YLD, and like all of these other groups that I've been so fortunate to have in Chicago. So when I moved back to Chicago and took a new job in the summer of 2019, even though I had friends from high school and other connections here, it was a no-brainer to seek this stuff out and want to get involved in it and pursue that as another means for enriching my social life and working more with the Jewish community at large.
Amazing. And so this brings us back to how we met, which is a bit of a crazy story. And I'll give just a little bit of a background. So we were supposed to take a Morocco trip, which we're going to get back to, in the winter of 21, going into 22. And there was something called COVID, Omicron, that whatever. Anyway, Morocco skies close 14 days before we're supposed to go. We pivot, we offer the people, instead of Morocco, would you like to go to Poland? And about half the people said, yeah, we'll go to Poland. Kind of crazy, right? Who would want to make that switch? Ended up being an unbelievably powerful trip. And we went to Poland with a group from Florida. I give Yehudi a shout out that they let us come on with them last minute. And there was a great guy on the trip who at the end of the trip, now I wasn't soliciting referrals or anything. He looks at me and says, Rabbi, I have a great guy, and the two of you have to meet. And his name was Zach Britton. We have to give Zach a shout out.
Totally.
Okay,
yeah.
Zach, thank you. And he was proactive, and Zach introduced us, and maybe take it from there, how we met and what happened.
So Zach is one of my oldest friends, almost day one. His mother and my mother became very close friends in elementary school and have maintained that friendship, up to the current date. So Zach and I became close when we were in elementary and middle school. We went to summer camp together for 6 summers, and we've remained in touch ever since. He's a regular contact. I saw him just a couple weeks ago. His younger brother got married, and I went out to hang with him. So Zach, who has also been involved with Jewish programs in South Florida where he lives, had just an incredible, moving, powerful, really fun experience in Poland, gets back and calls me and says, there's this rabbi in Chicago that I really want you to meet. So Rabbi Garfinkel and I connected. We had a video chat first, I believe, and then almost exactly 3 years ago, because it was right before Pesach,
oh my gosh,
I went to one of your Wednesday night sessions in one of the old office spaces that we were using prior to this lovely Project 613 downtown center that we've got now.
Now, Eric, let me ask you. Okay, so you get this referral from a guy you trust. Okay, but honestly, I get a lot of referrals. Not everyone pulls the trigger. What made you pull the trigger and say, I'm going to go check this out?
So I've been doing like Jewish community and young professional and that kind of stuff in various capacities for almost my entire adult life. But Project 613 was really the first exposure that I had to understanding spiritual Judaism and Torah study. And so it was unique, it was different. There happened to be a couple of common people that I had seen at other events through other groups that I knew and that I liked and that I enjoyed talking with. They were all there the first night that I attended Project 613. We got a really interesting lecture from a guest rabbi about something about the importance of Pesach, and it was cool. It was the same people, but the nature of the discussion that we were having was different. The vibe was different, and like the outcome was different, and I sort of appreciated that.
Amazing. All right, so continue your Project 613 journey. You're coming to classes, Shabbos, and then we hit our first trip together.
Morocco came back, which was tremendously exciting. We actually made it this time. And I had not applied for the first one, so I got one of the coveted, few spots for the non-prior applicants. And
It really was. Yeah.
It was an amazing trip. It was so cool. It was my first big international adventure since COVID, so there was some kind of hesitancy around that and some kind of nerves, but the travel was easy. The group was a lot of fun. These are people that I had been crossing paths with and hanging with casually at Project 613 events, but this was the first chance to really, form real good relationships with all of them. Every time I see them now at other events, it's like, oh yeah, remember Morocco? Yeah. We had a great time. It was so cool touring the country. The itinerary was packed. There were a couple times where I found myself wishing that we could do less, just so we could spend more time in some of the places. Here's Casablanca, here's this great city, and we were there for 18 hours, maybe, just not a long time. But we ended the week in Gibraltar. We had Shabbos there, which was really lovely. And then the next day was New Year's Eve. So we spent New Year's Eve from 22 into 23 on a cruise ship docked at the port of Gibraltar, watching fireworks go off. It was so cool. It was an awesome trip. Super great to get out and explore a part of the world that I had never been to before. Really interesting to learn about the Jewish history in the place.
Right. Because Sephardic Jewry, right.
The Jewish story in Morocco is largely a positive one. There's no Jews there anymore, but there's no real, negative story behind why they're not. They all went to Israel, which is a wonderful thing. But we learned a lot while we were there. Rabbi Garson was a tremendous guide. He had all kinds of good knowledge to share with us. It was an amazing experience. I really enjoyed it.
Wow. Yeah, Morocco was a very special trip and a window. I'm not sure when the next time we'll be able to go. Pre and post, we'll see. But tell us, so you come back from Morocco, you're pumped up, and then Olami rolls out an incredible program, their mentorship program, which we actually were one of the original pilots in the entire country, really in the entire world, because it's a global mentorship program. And who are we going to ask to join the program but Eric Gordon? So tell everyone about the mentorship program.
I joined the mentorship program shortly after we got back from Morocco. I came back from Morocco super hyped on Project 613 work and understanding deeper levels of spiritual Judaism and Jewish community and all that stuff. So the mentorship program seemed like a no-brainer. My mentor, Noah Siegel, who you told me you were eager to match me up with before the mentorship program was even a thing.
And this, by the way, was sometimes we do it based on profession, and sometimes we do it by personality in life. And I like, as soon as you're like Eric and Noah are like chocolate and peanut butter, two great tastes that go great together. I don't know if that's still commercial or not, but either way, it was the perfect match.
Noah and I very quickly in our first conversation established after about 20 minutes that we had no insight career-wise to offer each other. So, working with him in the mentorship, especially at that point in my life, was huge for me just because it was a transitionary period. I was switching jobs, I was taking up a new aspect of my career, I was navigating some different relationships, and he was a tremendous source of advice and was a great friend to me through all of that. We've continued our conversation since. He knows the questions to ask to challenge me, to help me get out of my head in areas where I have, preconceived or blocks that are not where I need my focus and my attention to be. And I always appreciate that from him. Like he challenges me in the best possible way.
Amazing. And so part of the mentorship program, at least initially, was that to go all in and to dedicate all this time, is that it culminated in another international trip, which was the Olami Summit in Spain. And I don't know if people could see this online. The Olami Summit in Spain is absolutely unbelievable. There have been several summits over the years, but you bring about 1,000 Jews, staff, college students, young professionals to Spain to tap into the history. It was amazing, and obviously, who's going to be on that trip but Eric Gordon. So Eric, tell us a little bit about the Olami Summit in Spain.
When I was getting ready to go, I remember mentioning to Rabbi Marcus that I was going, and he said, Eric, I don't think you understand, that trip is going to be electric. and I was like, okay, Rabbi, like, fine, it'll be a trip to Spain, it'll be cool, it'll be an adventure. But he was spot on. That was a wild experience the whole time that we were there. I think 700 to 800 young professional Jews from all over the world, all of whom were interested in getting in touch with their Jewish identity, which just provided for all kinds of enjoyment, great interactions. Language barriers didn't matter. We worked it out. We took over this entire hotel in Toledo, ran the place into the ground. It was awesome. It was so cool. I think the one sentence description that I had for the people that asked me about the trip when I returned, what did you do? And I said, I think we averaged about 2.5 hours of sleep a night and 5.5 meals a day.
It's true.
But we also, we learned a lot about the Jewish history in the region, and we traveled to some of the cities around Toledo. We went to Madrid, we went to, was it Sevilla?
Yep.
At the beginning of each day would get an interesting lecture to introduce, the Jewish significance and the history behind the city that we were going to, from a British rabbi who also had a deep historical knowledge of.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Tell us about, there was one time where outside of the city walls of Toledo, we had a learning session that was the largest gathering of Jews probably since the expulsion in Spain. And we were all learning Torah. And then we had an incredible concert from Yaakov Shweki. But tell us about what it felt like to be plugged into a place that we've been kicked out 500 plus years ago, coming back triumphantly, and learning Torah outside the city walls of Toledo.
It was really powerful. I appreciated that everything we did was sort of framed up in the, Jewish experience pre-Inquisition, and then what happened to the Jews in this point at this specific location during the Inquisition. Not a part of history that I had studied all that much in my previous coursework. So really welcomed the chance to learn about that a little bit more. And then to see everybody at the end of the week when we're all friends, we're all tight, we're all exhausted, but we're all exhausted together. Sitting, out in this beautiful patio in Toledo with the sun going down, studying Torah before this incredible concert. Just a tremendously impactful experience. It was really, really cool.
I get chills even thinking about it. So towards the end, it was actually the end of the Olami Summit, there came a really inspirational time that people started wanting to take on certain mitzvahs, to take the inspiration on Judaism. It's the inspiration we know is a gift from Hashem, from God, but it's fleeting. And so the goal is when we're in the moment of inspiration to concretize it into a concrete activity. So Eric, you took the bull by the horn, Spain, right? And tell us about how your inspiration led to something very concrete that you're still very much involved with today.
So the last night for Havdalah, we had like a 8-hour Havdalah right before we had to get on the bus and take a long flight. Nobody slept. They had this massive candle and kept going for hours. But part of it was a lot of the mentors that were in the room committed to donating sets of tefillin to the mentees that had just completed the program. And one guy raises his hand and says, I'm going to donate 3 sets. And then it just keeps snowballing from there. And the next guy's going to donate 2, and the next guy's going to donate 5. And I don't know how many sets of tefillin were donated, just
dozens
in that room right then and there. So you received some allotment of the tefillin that was donated after Spain, and I was very fortunate to be the recipient of one of the sets, which is right here on the table.
And they're beautiful. Not only the beautiful case, but the tefillin themselves are very high quality tefillin. Like anything else, you could get your, online cheapo depot tefillin, which may not be kosher, or you get really legitimate tefillin. And we feel very blessed that you're using really beautiful and high quality tefillin.
And I've really appreciated making it a part of my morning routine. It's a good thing. It focuses me before whatever I have going on that day. It's a chance to be a little bit reflective. What do I need to accomplish today? What am I looking for? Like what can I ask for help with? And it has also lent me the opportunity to be a regular at the Tefillin Club on Sunday mornings in the center.
Which we're recording right now after the Tefillin Club.
Yeah.
Okay, so Eric, one of my favorite stories in over 20 years of Jewish outreach was, Eric, your story with the tefillin, walking the streets of Chicago one Friday morning. Can you tell everyone your story?
I left work from my office on Friday a little early to go back and finish the calls that I had. And as I'm walking down the street, it's Friday, but the sun's still up. It's a couple hours before Shabbos starts. Some yeshiva students approach me, and they're reaching out to people in the city, trying to get them motivated, trying to get them to wrap tefillin. And they come up to me and they say, "Excuse me, sir, are you Jewish?" I said, "Yes." And then they said, "Oh, wonderful. Can we interest you in wrapping tefillin?" And I said, "Oh, I appreciate that, guys, but I already did it today." And they were astounded. They were astounded. They look at each other. They look back at me. Really? I hated to disappoint them. They were so excited that they found someone to talk with them. And then, I've already done this mitzvah and this task that they're trying to help other people with. So, no, I'm sorry, guys. I'm done. Did it for today. Have a good Shabbos.
Can you imagine these 2 young men, just minds blown? Anyway, but I do want to give a shout out to Chabad and the amazing work that they do, sending teenage boys out. The girls go out to give out the candles. It's really something very special. But you know what? I think that's something that those boys will remember the rest of their lives, that they had a young man who, said, "Hey, I already stepped up and I did tefillin today." Okay, so as I knew we were going to have an issue, Eric and I, we could talk for hours because he's such a mensch, as you see. A couple more topics I want to nail down before we bring it into a landing. Shabbos in West Rogers Park, and now Shabbos in the city. And if you could go into the impact that this beautiful center has had, but maybe start with Shabbos in West Rogers Park, because I know there are many young professionals who will be listening to this saying, "Rabbi, you want me to go to West Rogers Park on the TUI exit? Come on, what's that all about?"
If you can get there, it's a great experience. I've done it a handful of times, and I've always come back, with really positive impressions of it. It's impactful. It's restful in a different kind of way than what I was anticipating. Mm-hmm. I was sort of anticipating just exhale, relax, or whatever, and that's not really what it is, because you're going for 25 hours straight. You keep going, but it's relaxing because it's a release. It's insulation from everything else in the outside world, and I come out of it just feeling refreshed and ready to go for the rest of the week. I've enjoyed meeting a lot of the other people in West Rogers Park for whom that's just what they do every week. That's been a wonderful experience. And I feel really good about myself sitting at the table, talking Talmud, talking about the Parshas, when I can hang with them based on what I've studied with Rabbi Marcus and what I've learned from you and other Project 613 events. That feels really cool and validating as well.
Amazing. Take us, tell people about the center, Shabbos here in the downtown center, programming here, what has the center done? I mean, you first came to one of our, these are the travels of Project 613, the Wandering Jews. Now we have our home. Tell us the impact it's had on you and really the community here.
Well, the downtown center's been great. It's at a key location for, I think, a lot of the young professionals that you're trying to reach, many of whom are located in a pretty tight perimeter around the area. It is perfect for whatever we need it to be, which is quite a bit because there's all kinds of events and things that you're hosting here. And Shabbos are really nice. Friday nights are packed. It's super lively. The vibe is tremendously positive. There's singing, there's all kinds of food, there's people milling around and everybody's being social. It's a party every time. And then Saturdays are also a lot of fun. The crowd is a little bit more reserved, but it's nice to have our services in the morning. I appreciate those for the same reason that I did going up to West Rogers Park. It's a time to disconnect, it's a time to refresh. And then I really enjoy hearing from the various people from around the community and the speakers that you have come in to talk about whatever this week's Parsha is, whatever upcoming holidays we're either preparing for or need to understand the legitimacy behind after they happen. I find that stuff tremendously interesting, and I'm always excited to listen to them while we're eating our lunch.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, amazing. Now, Eric, in many ways, you are really the model, and I talked to a lot of people about the future. Project 613 is building future leaders. Well, you're not a future leader, you're a current leader, but you bring Torah values to your leadership. You bring all the amazing learning. We skipped all the learning that you're doing with Rabbi Marcus on basically a weekly basis, which is incredible. And tell us about your work. I know YLD with the JUF, head of the campaign. It's very impressive. But tell us, obviously, what you're doing there, but how what you've learned here has made you a better leader.
So shortly before we went to Spain, I was invited to join the YLD board, which was a huge honor. That's been a wonderful experience. I so appreciate getting to associate myself with the other people on the board because they're all impressive, they're driven, they're brilliant, they're motivated, they're successful in their careers. What I picked up on and what I've said to them many times, but what I'm cognizant of is that despite the fact that we're all Jewish and we're all from Chicago, our motivations for joining the board and for continuing with the work that we do on the board are incredibly diverse. Everybody has a different reason for being there, and getting to hear the stories from those other people who, despite having similar backgrounds, have wildly different reasons for wanting to stay has been tremendously gratifying and interesting. This past year, starting at the end of January, I took over as the 2025 fundraising campaign chair for YLD,
wow,
which has been just another tremendous honor. Super excited about the work that we're doing there.
It's not just an honor, it's a validation. I mean, it's really
totally,
incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not choosing between, C-level people. Like, everyone is like, this is like A++ island, right? And they're picking, so it's a real credit to you.
I was very excited to be asked. The president, a guy named Adam Greitzer, who's a close friend of mine, that was one of the first things he did after he was elected, and I was super excited to work with him. He's a wonderful guy, tremendous leader of the program as well, and getting to work with him and the rest of the board in this capacity has been such an honor. As of last week, I think Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, we had raised over $411,000.
Wow!
So we're moving, we're rolling. But our goal is ambitious. The previous campaign chairs before me did a tremendous job. I've got an incredibly high bar to get over, but I'm confident that we can get there, and I'm excited about the work that we're doing. But what has sort of amplified my appreciation for this work and what has made me so much more proud and so much more humbled by the early success that we've had has been sort of the understanding of the importance of giving and donation as a core Jewish value based on what we've talked about here, based on the parshas that we've discussed and the learnings that I've done with Rabbi Marcus. It makes it so much more special to know that I can help young professionals early in their career when they don't have a ton of money to be donating to anything outside of rent, groceries, and whatever social causes they want to have for themselves. To work with them to help to establish early on in their lives the habit of giving and sort of ingrain that as this is just something that I do, this is something that I budget for with whatever kind of paycheck I get has been tremendously gratifying and I think very important.
And paying it forward and training your peers in a mitzvah. Let's face it, tzedakah is a mitzvah. So it's so gratifying for us, Rabbi Marcus, and our wives, and the whole Project 613 community is so much nachas, so much Jewish pride from what you're doing, because you're taking the best of what we're teaching and you're implementing it and you're impacting everyone out there, as you said, at an early age. So it's amazing. So, Eric, I want to give you the last word over here, and you're going to have people doom scrolling. Is that what we call it on YouTube? Okay, they're going to come across Project Team. They're going to come across Mensch of the Month, and they're going to watch the whole episode and going to come to the end, and they're going to click in, and they're going to listen to you say, what would you say to an average young professional out there who may or may not be motivated Jewishly, religiously, spiritually, who may or may not be, they know maybe they're a little bit different now, post-October 7th, tectonic shifts are happening. What would you tell your peer who has not stepped into Project 613 yet, why they should go on a limb and take a shot?
I think there is something for you in this community. I didn't know what it was for me the first time I went. I didn't really know what to expect. What I got was not anything that I would have expected, but there is something for you in the community. And if you have the time and the willingness to come and check it out and you know the patience to stick with it, you will find something and you will benefit from it. I hope to see you at an upcoming event. Let's take a shot together.
Amazing. Eric, we are so proud of you. You are already doing great things. You will continue to do great things. Oh, and I have one last thing. Eric, what is your dating status?
I'm single, Rabbi.
Ladies, a gem in our midst. Okay, I don't want to hear any ladies come and say, Rabbi, there's no good guys. No. Okay, so this is a subtle in between the lines, pink elephant in the room.
It's not very subtle.
Okay, but you have to vet me, right? They have to call me first. I'll vet them all.
All right.
Okay, but really, Eric, we wish you, your family, the very, very best. We know you're going to find the right one and build a beautiful Jewish family with these beautiful Jewish values. And I can speak for Rabbi Marcus and myself to say that we are proud of what we do because of people like you.
Thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate it.
All right, and Mazel again on being this month's Mensch of the Month.